You know, there's a lot of great OU podcasts, but there's only one where the horns are always down. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Horns Down Podcast.
What's up, people? Horns Down Podcast, your host, Chris with a K, Chris Griffin. I'm here alongside co-host for tonight, Mr. Chris Mason. We're going to preview the Missouri game, talk a little recruiting as well. Mr. Mason, how are you doing? How's everything going on in your world?
Everything's fine here in the Sooners 360 recruiting headquarters in Atlanta.
So if you want to get all your news and latest tidbits about everything that's going on in recruiting, you can catch that. Everybody go down to the bio. You'll see where you can follow us on Twitter. And also, Mr. Mason, I'll let you talk more about that, but your Patreon, that link is in the bio as well.
Yeah, go to patreon.com, search for Sooners 360, and you can find my online Patreon site where I post all of my recruiting content and program content. It's only $2 a month. And it's a free trial option, so you can just wade in and see how you like it.
Yeah. Listen, if you haven't ever watched this show or heard Mr. Mason talk, I'm telling you, no fluff, straight to the point. It's not we're going to sit around here and just talk about these guys and just kind of start the conversation. No, we're going to start the conversation and kind of give you real facts about what's going on. That's what Chris Mason brings to the table, but you'll definitely get a lot of that tonight. But Mr. Mason, I'll let you start off. What are your thoughts about this matchup this weekend with Missouri, top 25 Missouri, that may or may not have all their guys, but what are your thoughts?
Well, the last time we saw Missouri, they were playing Alabama, and I watched the first half of that game, and Alabama didn't play great. And Missouri played even worse. They looked absolutely terrible. And that was before they put in Pine for Cook. So, and of course, we all know Missouri went to College Station and got flattened. And really, they struggled to beat Auburn at home, went to overtime with Vandy, and Vandy probably should have won that game in regulation. And they have a very favorable schedule from the SEC, generally speaking. They've avoided most of the big powers, other than Alabama, who obviously beat them 34-0. So, is a paper tiger too strong a comment? They have two losses. They have won football games, but they certainly don't appear to be the same level of football team as they were last year.
Excuse me. Those Chipotle chips will kill you. Excuse me. What I was going to say is that it lightning in a bottle. Am I correct in saying that?
It's a little. I think maybe for a comparison, Sooner fans can understand or appreciate it. It looks a little bit like Missouri was last year's TCU from their college football run, right? That season, everything kind of went right for them. Everything fell in place. They were a good football team. Let's not kid ourselves. They were a good football team, but they got everybody. They got the schedule in the right way. They caught teams at the right moment. They had that miracle field goal to beat K-State right from the very beginning. So it looks to me that, it seems to be more of an anomaly season, and they are trending back to what they have been the last 5 or 6 seasons, which are, like a 7-5, 6-6 kind of football team. Their schedule favors them this year, to be honest, but they don't look that impressive. I think it was kind of shocking, Chris, that the line went from, Missouri -2.5, I think it started, and now it's OU -3, I believe. The last time I looked last time someone sent me some betting odds. So Vegas obviously thinks Brady Cook isn't playing. They're missing their top running back might not play as well. They've got some other. They don't have the OU ambulance list, but they certainly have some key injuries in some key places. So whereas this looked like maybe 4 weeks ago when OU was flailing their way out of the Cotton Bowl, this looked daunting. It doesn't look quite as Vegas thinks that, Vegas thinks this is basically a toss-up. Maybe OU favored by 3. If you strictly take the way Vegas usually works, OU's favored by about 5 or 6 at this point. And now some of that's probably just money moving around because all the money went on OU when the first line was in. So Vegas is obviously trying to even things out a little bit. So gamblers really loved OU getting 3 points. So 2.5 points or 3 points. So it looks to me like a fairly even matchup. And then you have to factor in is it Drew Pine? I think it's Drew Pine. Is that right? I think it's Drew Pine.
Yeah, it's Drew Pine.
Yeah. It's Brady Cook, Drew Pine. They have kind of these, like auto QB generator names, right?
those 2029 NCAA names.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, something like auto generate. They seem like fake auto generate names. Generate a quarterback from from Texas. So something like that. Chase Daniel, Brady Cook, Drew Pine. It'll seem sort of like the same kind of name. He's really. I mean, the Sooner Scoop guys had their pod yesterday, and to quote Josh McCuistion, Drew Pine is awful. So I think that could be and he throws interceptions like they're candy. So if he's truly starting and he hasn't used the bye week because they're coming off a bye week to really stabilize, and I'm not sure how much better you get over a bye week like that. The reason why he's on his third program and he couldn't start at Connecticut and things like that. So now, if he has to start, if he's truly starting, Chris, that gives OU an even bigger window, I think, in this game.
Now, a couple of things, okay? First off, I think it starts here. I'm trying to blow this up as much as I possibly can. Hopefully, you guys can see this. We already know what's the issue up here, right? We see Javonte Bourne's name on there. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he plays. Jalil Farouk, Deion Burks. I'm not sure I'm not sure. I think a lot of people are really hyped off of the Jackson Arnold interview and all the rest of that stuff. You gotta put take that with a grain of salt. Like I just don't necessarily know if we see those guys. But they
were upgraded though.
Yeah, they were yeah. But
they were questionable Wednesday night.
Questionable Wednesday night. What are they? Oh yeah.
They're now probable.
Well, see, those are great signs. But like I said, regardless, though, the good news is we can still beat Missouri with or without those guys. I think that's kind of where we're at right now with the offense that we're running. But if we get those guys back, that's a huge boost to what we're seeing right now with this Joe Judge mini era that we're in. But right here, I think another important piece to this is let's not look up here. We could talk all day about what Farouk, Burks, what those guys can add. Javonte Bourne's being able to play what those guys can add, right? But I think that, Ethan Downs is probable as well. You're looking at Tarquin, who's likely out. You're looking at Bates, who's likely out. And obviously both Jakes are going to be out as well. So
I think Tarquin has a chance to play.
You think Tarquin has a chance to play?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Well, I mean, and it can help. Does he play at where are you playing him this game? Are you playing him at left tackle to give Howland a spell, or where would you put him? Right tackle?
I'm playing him at right tackle to end the Spencer Brown experiment, and I'm playing him at right tackle. You're all the folks hating on Logan Howland for his late fourth quarter issues in Oxford need to realize he played much better. Just his technique, he played much better against Maine. If you see some of the breakdowns that have been posted on the internet by various sites, you can see Logan Howland played a much better technique game, and he played a really pretty good run game. So Sexton's not. I don't believe Sexton's coming back this season. So I think Logan Howland, and I think it's going to be hard to get Jake Taylor Jake Taylor can't come back for the Bama game. He's not coming back at all this year.
I think that Howland, the only thing that I've seen is he has dead hands at sometimes. That South Carolina game, I think that he would have had some success against them if he would have just had active hands. Whether or not it's a holding or whatever the case may be, you got to do something, but you can't get your guys sacked and you're causing turnovers. I see.
But there's no. We're past the point of other options at this point.
Oh, for sure.
And if you're gonna, and you might as well give Howland has him. So Howland's in right. Satterfield's right. I mean, for those, the Howland curve line is heading up, right? His technique in the main game was so much better than the Ole Miss game, right? Yeah. He wasn't making the massive technique mistake that everybody pointed out in their footage and breakdowns, and he played better, doing a much better job of the run game, covering people, blocking folks, trading people off and doing some things with Ozetta. So overall, that curve's going up, and we might as well force feed him reps and escalate his development, accelerate his development, because giving the reps to Spencer Brown just makes no sense at all. At this point.
No, it makes no sense at all at this point. But we could talk about that with some of the defensive guys that are getting snaps too. But Steve O'Rollo, he says Burks, Farouk, Jordan Jacobs, Hester, and others can get it done. If you get Burks and Farouk back and they're able to be at least 80%, 75, 80% of what they are, that helps you out tremendously, because then you can bring in guys to spell them like Kearney, Carrion, guys like that, maybe even Raggins. But then you can actually put Brennan Thompson in more of a comfortable role, in my opinion, as far as just being that guy who's stretching the field, right? So that's something that I'd definitely be excited about seeing. But folks, I really want to turn our attention to the Missouri side of this, and I want to look at their injury report, because there's one name on here that I think is definitely key to, and I'm not trying to make this seem like, hey, we need their guys to be injured or we need these dominoes to fall for us to win. What I'm saying is that this takes one of their weapons away, and it's right here with Mookie Cooper. That if they don't have him playing, that's another guy right there that you're taking off the field, another speedy guy, another guy that they're really excited about. They've been excited about since the spring game. I thought he was going to possibly have a big year, dealt with some injuries this year. But if you're able to, if he's not on the field or whatnot, and let's just say that Brady Cook does play, or he's playing, he's playing injured, or Drew Pine does play, to me, excuse me, I liken this Missouri team to Mike Gundy teams of the past, like the ones with Tylan Wallace, where they had good guys around him as far as in that wide receiver core, but we knew who the guy was. We knew what they were trying to do. Ultimately, they wanted to lull you asleep for a little bit and then take that umbrella off, right? Take the hood off of the defense. They wanted to hit you deep. And that's what a lot of defenses have been able to do this year. They've been able to contain Luther Burden however they've done it. Double coverage, bracketing, all the rest of that stuff. This is a game where that's going to be a key matchup. If you can contain Luther Burden and keep him from going off. I mean, I think he's only had 100-yard receiving game, but he's still had explosive plays in some other games, but it's taken a while to get to him. So that's going to be a key matchup. Theo Weiss, love Theo, have all the respect for Theo, but turn him into what he's really become, which is a possession wide receiver, right? So, I mean, if you're able to do those things, you should.
Odd big play here or there, but you, for the most part, you're right. I mean, the big thing is Missouri is really pretty. Last year, because if you remember, it was the Schrader kid in their running game that really stoked everything for them. He had a fantastic season, and they were really running the ball, at an elite level. I don't think their running back is nowhere near as good as the guy last year, Schrader. Knowles banged up. They are still running the ball well, but I think the OU defensive line and the OU linebackers, if they could shut down Missouri's running game, and and OU is a top 10 run defense in the country. That's the statistics bear that out. Everyone's had problems running on OU for the most part. Obviously we gave up a 45-yard run to Maine last week, but that was more assignment fit than anything else. If OU could stop the running game and force either an injured, immobile, hand-hurt Brady Cook or Drew Pine to have to throw the ball to get the ball downfield. Don't give up the big play. Missouri's going to try and do the same thing to us as well, right? You might got to make these guys grind out drives because they shoot themselves in the foot. I think that's the key, Chris, is the running game and OU's ability to get pressure on the quarterback and the running game are the key. If you can make Missouri one-dimensional, so far this year they haven't proven that their passing game can just beat you, can put points up, significant points up to pull away from anybody.
Well, I mean, I think the question is who are you going to have? Are you leaving somebody on the island with him? And I don't necessarily mean just on the island where you don't have any help over the top, but who are you matching up with Burden for the majority of the game?
I think I'm probably putting Eli at this point after what we've seen the last couple of games. I'm putting Eli Bowen on him, and then I'm putting Jacoby Johnson covering Theo Weiss. I think Jacoby is a size athletic matchup that could handle Weiss, but I think Bowen is probably the guy you need on Burden to provide the best overall coverage. I mean, Burden's not a massive guy. It's not like Burden is 6'4", 220, right? He's not one of these monstrous size wide receivers. Burden's, he's 6'1", 190, 195, something like that. He's fast. He's quick. He's an excellent playmaker, but I think you put Eli Bowen on him. That's the matchup you try and establish, and then you put Jacoby Johnson on Theo Weiss, and depending upon what they do, I think that's the matchup I would like to see, and I'd be interested to see if we see more Jaden Hardy as the kind of coverage cheetah player that's out there, because I think that's maybe Hardy. We saw last week Hardy playing that and doing a good job. That might be maybe getting a preview of his future at Cheetah, because he seems
like he's on fire out there the way he's running around.
Well, it's like okay, who looks a lot like Kendall Dolby, because the pass defense is missing Dolby. It has been. You haven't quite known who to put in there. You put Omasigo in there. You put Woody Washington in there, and you're kind of giving away what you're doing a little bit. Not that Hardy's huge, but he plays the position like Dolby was playing the position. Dolby was making tackles for loss. Dolby knew how to blitz, and Dolby was in coverage, was doing a great job, getting the balls, getting the pass. We've got a criminal showing up in our pod right now.
That's true.
No. I mean, I see that, and that's what I've been thinking the whole time. You put Bowen on him, and I think that you're. I don't want to necessarily take the aggressiveness away from the defense, especially bringing up those safeties or whatnot. But I think this is a game where you're like, hey, a good portion of the time you could see this defense just kind of sit back and just rush with four or rush with either guys where I'm forgetting his name, Stutz, Kip Lewis, got your linebackers where you could see that extra pass rusher coming off that edge or coming through that middle.
Or we do a little more 3-3-5, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say that as well. You could potentially see a 3-3-5, especially if we're stuffing the run like I think we should be able to. We probably see a lot of 3-man front. I'm hoping that we don't see it a lot during the early part of the game, because I think this is the game where I just don't want to give them hope, right? And that's one other thing that I would say is that Drew Pine, you can call him mediocre or whatever you want, but Drew Pine he's decently mobile. Okay, if you watched anything from him at his time with like Notre Dame, that's kind of what he was known for, was just being able to keep plays alive, not being a scrambler. I'm not saying that he's, Lamar Jackson or anything like that, but let's just say he'd be a poor man's version of Baker as far as trying to like run the ball.
I mean,
right?
very, very poor.
Very poor, very poor. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is just a guy that, historically OU does bad against backup quarterbacks, guys like this right here that are decently mobile. But I feel like Brent and Zach are going to have a great game plan. But like I said, that matchup, as far as who is shadowing Luther Burden the entire time, that's going to be key. Another thing is that, can we please get our calls in on defense early, or at some point, kind of, can we meet in the middle on that just a little bit, so we're not getting caught up? Because I can see Drink and company coming out there trying to run a little bit of tempo or doing something just a little bit different to try to get things going. That's going to be an interesting piece. Jason, I think we've talked a lot about it. What are your thoughts about this matchup with Missouri?
I like their chances before, whether or not. I mean, I think I've kind of liked their chances the whole way, because I just haven't seen a whole lot out of them that makes me think, oh, Missouri's really good. They're not the same football team that you saw a year ago, and even that team I thought was pretty suspect. But the way that I think I heard Chris Mason talking about this a second ago. You watched them just kind of lay down against Texas A&M when it got a little, just a little bit behind them. Same thing last week. When they played Alabama a couple weeks ago, it was not good. Now, having a bye week, you got to expect that Drink's probably going to have a couple of things up his sleeve, but I got to say that everything that kind of went down between the Caden Green stuff and all that other deal, and plus the fact that if you put Drew Pine in there, they're liable to have a field day with this guy. I still don't even think that with Brady that they're going to be great. We just haven't really seen it that much. So the one thing you're probably going to want to do is just make sure you shut down the run. Oklahoma's been really good at that so far. So I think if you can do that and you put the ball into the hands of the quarterback, either one that goes in there is probably going to benefit the OU defense.
I mean, they struggled all year long offensively. They have not been good pretty much all year long on offense.
Right.
And so the question is OU's front six, let's just call it the front six for now, is it as good as Bama's? Because if it is, then they're in for then Missouri's in for. Chris, it's really hard to explain how bad they looked against Alabama. It was terrible.
You could say that. I think Missouri went into that game. I watching that game, I don't think they attacked Alabama the way that you have to attack Bama. To beat Bama is not necessarily establishing a run or doing anything like that. You got to throw at those corners. You got to throw at those corners and catch those and put those safeties in some very peculiar situations. That's what I've seen this year from Bama. Is that's whenever they struggle the most, is whenever you can really test that secondary. Because as good as those guys are, I'm not just saying that they're highly touted or talented. We already know that. No, those guys, they've shown flashes at certain points this year where, each one of them could be really, really elite, right? But at times you've seen some gotcha moments as well, right? Mm-hmm. So that in itself is something. So I don't necessarily know what the game plan was. This is a game where you cannot come out there late with calls or whatever the case may be, because the last thing you want to do is, if Kanai is in the game, is end up having him matched up with Burden and calling a safety blitz with Billy or RSJ coming downhill and they're on his side and he's all alone. Because I like Kanai, but Kanai is going to bite on whatever move that Luther Burden shows him. And let's just be real, Luther Burden has a bag. It's not like he's
they'll pick on him. They'll pick on him the same way that you saw Ole Miss picking on him, right?
Yeah, and this because to me, the reason why I say, hey, it's great that you would want Eli to be on him is simply because of I don't think this is a game where you come out there and say, okay, well, we'll put Kanai on him, we'll put Jacoby on him. They're bigger guys, athletic guys, right? Yeah, that's great if you want to try to be physical, but you have to have a guy that's physical but can also really, really cover it. I'm not saying Jacoby can't. I'm not saying that Kanai can't all the way. But as far as that speed, you don't want to test that as far as just leaving those guys out there. That's a liability.
I think you want to do it. I mean, you want to make – I mean, Missouri's not been scoring. They've not been good on offense. You do want to do everything to force them. You don't want to give up cheap freebies, right? You don't want to do any of that nonsense. You want to try and force an offense that is not scoring, that is, Drew Pine was what, 6 of 12 against Alabama with 3 interceptions?
Yeah, 3 interceptions, and he completed 6 at 50%.
I mean, he
actually completed 9 of 15, but
just 3. But yeah, Chris, I think to your point is you don't want to let Luther Burden win this game, right? Make Drew Pine throw to someone else to win this football game, right? And make him sit in the pocket for an extra second or two, confuse him as much as you can, drop guys back, do everything, because he will put the ball into harm's way. Mm-hmm. Brady Cook is obviously more mobile, but he's got a hurt ankle and he's got a hurt wrist. Vegas seems convinced he's not playing. That's why the line has moved, as well as all the money flying to Oklahoma the moment the line opened. But yeah, I mean, Missouri doesn't have the personnel on defense that we've been seeing either. So that other matchup, our beat up but improving over the last 2 weeks O-line. Mm-hmm. Their better players are inside. Our better guys are inside. So they have good ends, but they don't have Dylan Stewart or Princely Yamalian and Walter Nolan and the guys at Ole Miss. They don't have the guys at Tennessee. I think they're a lesser version of what Texas has, because I think Texas scheme-wise is just so solid defensively because they've had it for so long that I think, Texas is a good defense, not a great defense. So I think, you're talking about a defense, which I think, if you compare it to the Ole Miss defense where we were effectively running the football, throwing the ball around, if we can play to that level on offense, I think we can score on the Missouri defense. They don't have the overwhelming talent on the defensive line, which is the big matchup that hurts us. Got to win the turnover battle. Be nice if we can make a special teams player too. But I think, the matchups wise, it's the best. This is the best matchups for OU since, we've made some changes and we've had some progress in some areas. I think matchup wise, OU's in a decent spot, not a great spot, but a decent spot on the offensive line versus their D line, which is the first time we've really been able to say that since Tulane, really.
Jason?
Yeah, I think the offensive line, I definitely want to see Spencer Brown out there. Don't want to see him out there. So, you're hoping that Tarquin is you're either going to have to go with Autry Dent at one side and have Tarquin in there, or, obviously Logan Howland, looked a lot better this past week as well. In fact, he was graded, I think, higher than anybody on PFF. Of course, again, you're going up against Maine, so. But it wasn't an issue with Howland of not being good or not being capable. It was a technique issue that he was having, stepping straight back. When you drop that foot at the left tackle, you're going to get your guy killed. But when he's technique sound, he looks really good. So I think that Logan's going to be okay. I think that aside from Logan and Tarquin, you got to play these young guys some. I think that. Unless they show that they're a liability, you have to give them some time. That's the reason that you were, saving them to play these last few games, was so that they can still use their red shirt, but you can find out what you got. I think Isaiah looked pretty good last week, so I would definitely go and give him some run there at times before I would give it to Spencer Brown. So certainly that would be my hope. But I think that when it comes to this matchup, I just think I've been saying this for a year, guys. I didn't believe in Missouri last year. They had a similar schedule that just didn't really – the games that they played against good teams, they got beat. Same thing that you're seeing this year. They struggled I know you guys were talking about the Bama game, and obviously they struggled against, Auburn a couple of weeks ago and, barely won that one at home.
Yep.
They struggled with they had to go to overtime with Vanderbilt, but let's not forget Boston College was in it in Columbia for the entirety of the game.
Yeah.
Until the very end before they finally beat them too. And that's not even a contender in the ACC.
There was an interception in there as well that kind of that hurt them. That kind of changed momentum a little bit and gave some life to those fans there.
Again, I think that you don't go in there and overlook them at all. And I think that and I don't think that you probably see that with everything that you've heard out of the Missouri fan base for a damn year about how great they are. I think that Oklahoma goes in there. There's probably some bad blood in terms of the Caden Green stuff. I would think that that's going to hype up the guys on the defensive side. So if Caden's playing, you're probably going to he's going to get the best from that defensive line. Look, I think Oklahoma's defensive line is heads above where they are at. I think that that's a great matchup there. And I like the offensive line's matchup with Missouri's got a pretty good D line. I wouldn't call it as good as Oklahoma's for certain. I don't think it's probably as good as Auburn's. But I think that if I like anything about Missouri, it'd probably be that D line. And then, of course, Luther Burden, Theo Weiss. You don't want to let Luther Burden get loose. But I don't think you're going to see him do that. I just don't think you're going to see him do that.
You gotta make Theo play hero ball. That's what you got to do.
Sure.
Sooners in Texas. We'll get to this question. We'll get to your question here in a little bit. We'll save that one for a little bit later. But people, I mean that's the day. It's supposed to be rainy that morning into the afternoon. Maybe a chill for a little bit that night. So I mean, does it change anything for you guys as far as what you should see? I mean, hey, it's football weather regardless. So I mean, you got to go out there and knuckle up, right? Does that change anything for you guys? This is a game where we definitely need to establish the run. So you're hoping that whatever it was that had Javonte Barnes is questionable on the injury report, you're hoping that is just
little gamesmanship.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the old days. Back in the 80s, Switzer used to complain that whenever he played Missouri, they would waterlog. They'd grow the grass high and they'd waterlog the field to make OU as slow as possible. So no gamesmanship like that any longer. I mean, it's the night crowd element is interesting because it's odd. I think it's odd to see us playing a night game considering everything else going on in the SEC. But it just tells you the TV windows the SEC has over the crappy Big 12 ones we were getting. This is if the facade of Missouri's season obliterates if they lose to OU. It cracks if they lose to OU. If they beat OU, they've got winnable games left on their schedule. They got Mississippi State. I think they have Florida. I think they may have Mississippi State and Florida and someone else, but they don't play any of the powers of the SEC after after our game. They've got 3 winnable games, two winnable games after the OU game. So for Missouri, their season cracks if they lose to OU, but they can't have this facade of being 10-2 and we should be in the football playoffs. Even though the best two teams we played, we got completely housed by. I mean, they can continue that facade and kind of puff themselves up, but they dropped this game to OU, and it'll
be liable to drop another 1 or 2 after that if they lose this one.
They could, yeah. If Brady Cook can't come back, and all bets are off if they've got to start Drew Pine in Starkville or something like that, and all that. But yeah, this is. I think, Chris, it's going to be a big atmosphere because this is a big game for Missouri. If they can get past OU in the state they're in, then, they're probably thinking we can be 10-2 again, be in a nice bowl game, have some chatter that we might be in the playoffs, at least hover around that territory near the end. If enough teams knock each other off, maybe they can drift into a high-ranking bowl game for the SEC, whatever that means. So I think it'll be a big atmosphere for them. But I do think if OU was to come out, put together a first half like they did against Ole Miss, and let's be honest, defensively, offensively, these Missouri's not Ole Miss. They're not putting up points like Ole Miss. They don't have the quarterback or the skill folks like Ole Miss in totality, and they don't have the defense that Ole Miss has. So if OU can play something similar to what they did at Ole Miss without Seaton, with Howland at with Howland at left tackle, with the other guys hopefully playing better, Arnold playing better, then I think if you could be up 14-6 at halftime and at Missouri, then that would trend well. I think Satterfield's just Jimmy's point, which is a lot of podcasts are mentioning this. So folks may disagree with me, but if you could knock off Missouri, your last two games you're playing with house money a little bit, right? You're bowl eligible. It's been a terrible season, but you've changed offensive coordinators and you would have won 3 games in a row since then. And then you just roll the dice against Bama at home and roll the dice against LSU and Baton Rouge. And you're playing with house money. If you lose those 2 games, everyone in the world expects you to lose them. You're going to be double-digit underdog. You can and hopefully you get healthier with a bye week in terms of Farouk and Burks, so that you go into those games with a little more wide receiver power for Jackson Arnold. That's why everyone's saying this, because if you win this game, you're a bowl eligible, right? So the worst you're going to be is 6-6. It's a bad schedule. We had a bad schedule. We had lots of injuries. We had an offensive coordinator issue. If you get to this bowl, if you're bowl eligible and you can go, and the team we've been seeing with all the young talent everywhere can get 3 weeks of bowl practice and get the new OC decision taken care of, you can roll into 2025 as a reset, but maybe a reset with some momentum. Get a bowl matchup with a terrible team, because at 6-6, you're gonna get like the best. You get a SEC fringe bowl where we'll play some crap ass team, which instead of being scheduled against somebody higher than where we were, like we did against FSU and Arizona, we'll get like a team that doesn't want to be there, and our young kids and young defense will kick the crap out of them. So that's why this is important. That's why this is the big step. Missouri's given you enough of an opening that if you should outcoach Drinkowitz, outplay Missouri, you have more talent. If you get directed in the right places, this is why this is key for Brent. This is a game you need to win, should win. Now go win it.
Mm-hmm. And what we've seen in these last couple of weeks, you've played winning football, not the entire game, right? And we're not even talking about the main game. People were just saying like the Ole Miss game, you played well enough. Yeah, be honest with you, if you take away those 3 turnovers back to back in South Carolina, your defense played well enough. You held them 15 points. Ole Miss, you played an incredible first half that nobody saw you playing. Just could not play that way the second half. So hey, you play winning football in spurts. Let's see you go out there and put it together. But no, I think I'm excited about this matchup, y'all. Definitely excited. We've spent 40 minutes on that topic right there. Let's go ahead and switch over to recruiting. Chris Mason, I think one question that probably is burning everybody that I'd like to hear from you as well is, are we going to be able to keep our recruits? Is there anything that's going on? And hopefully you will calm everybody down about the flip watch that everybody is talking about with Fasusi.
Okay, well, if you subscribe to my Patreon site, you would know that I've assigned an official Michael Fasusi flip panic number out there, which I'll be posting every update. So out of 10 points, my Michael Fasusi current flip panic number is 2 out of 10. Okay? All right? Possible, not likely, not on the cards. The main reason is Texas is probably would be the team that's pushing the hardest, and Texas screwed up some things in Fasusi's recruiting with his family badly. Okay, that's why his official visit there was such a disaster. So, and Texas A&M looks like it's about to flip Lamont Rogers. So their NIL money, their focus is, they're not focused on flipping Fasusi. They're focused on flipping Rogers. So those are the only two teams I think that are really after this. Obviously, I mean, guys, if Bill is gone, the O-line guys, you're gonna have to rally to keep them. But based upon some other recruiting things I saw, and based upon Brent's comments, I don't think we're going to see, despite the offensive coordinator change, I don't think we're going to see an O-line coach change. And everyone, a lot of people wanted DeMarco change. That's not a hill I'm dying on either, but I don't think Fasusi's going anywhere. I don't think Fojay's going anywhere, and I've not heard a single peep that Afalava's heading anywhere. I think if you're the biggest name I thought might leave is Cortez Mills, but I think if you're Cortez Mills, you look at OU right now, and all you see is playing time. Right? Okay, I got to beat a squadron of mash unit wide receivers. That's not a problem for me. He's enrolling early, and again, these guys are all enrolling early. So the closer we get to them getting official OU notification, and I think there's some misconceptions. As I understand the new NCAA rule with the letter of intent going away, the moment you sign financial aid paperwork and that's submitted, that means no other schools can contact OU's recruits. Okay, and the NCAA is only accepting one copy of one financial aid paperwork. So it's not like the old days in the 70s when you could send in 5 letters of intent and you're trying to figure out which one was first and who signed first and, did you sign 3? And we even had a case of that in the 2000s where a guy sent in 3 of them and the NCAA had to say, well, it's the first one we got on the fax machine, kid. So some folks think that it's going to be like a Wild West after signing day. I don't see that. I think that I don't think the rules are going to let that go. So these guys are old. They're basically 4 weeks away from signing, and none of them are wavering right now, and none of them are talking about taking visits anywhere else. So I think we're going to keep the majority. I think we may have somebody panic at the end, but I don't think it's going to be Fasusi or Fojay there. They appear to be locked in. They're going to the Navy All-American game together. They can be the bookend tackles there. The stars of that game at tackle for one of the teams. So I think, I think we're okay. And to back up the reason why I think Bill's not going anywhere, two 2026 offensive tackles were in Norman for the main game. 2 guys who are easily signable by OU. Carter Scruggs from Virginia, who is a fantastic-looking right tackle, top 150 player in the nation. He got his OU offer that weekend, and he's, like I said, he's got connections to Norman, to Oklahoma. This was a place he really wanted to visit. If you're halfway weak on Bill, why are you letting him make new O-line offers 3 weeks away from you walking me out the door? Right? Why are you letting him make new O-line offers? Doesn't make any sense. Why are you letting him build new relationships with kids? Why are you doing any of that if you're probably not eyeing towards keeping him? That's just my supposition in terms of that. Because notice, we're not bringing in any tight ends. No tight ends are getting. We desperately need another tight end in this class. No tight ends are happening right now. No tight end offers are happening. No new tight ends are visiting Norman. So read into that what you will, guys. But Bill and DeMarco hosting recruits. Joe John Finley not hosting recruits. I mean, I think it just speaks for itself there in terms of, how you want to read events. So, but I don't think we're going to lose anyone. Kamori Moore just verbal to Iowa State tonight. OU's probably going to get a verbal commitment, I think, during the Bama weekend from, if not before then, from Cash Jacobson, the Jenks defensive tackle they just offered. He's 6'5", 285. Probably could be a nose guard at 6'5", 310 easily. He's got a huge frame, athletic for his size. So expect that commitment to fall in the next, I would say, week or two. But I don't think OU's going to lose anyone. So it's not clear who OU's. I mean, you're not losing the Carl Albert kids. Mills would be the number one wide receiver I'd be worried about leaving. And he's not showing any signs of going anywhere. I mean, Nebraska doesn't look as good as a landing site as it did when he was visited there 4 weeks ago.
No doubt there, right? And they're probably about to get rid of their coordinator, aren't they?
They may make a change. Clemson doesn't exactly look better either. So on the defensive side of the ball, why would you be leaving the defense at all? I mean, I was a little afraid Omarion Robinson and Wimberly might roll back to Arkansas. There's zero signs that's happening. Cortland Guillory Texas made a run at Cortland Guillory, but he's apparently he was like, okay, I just want to be recruited for a bit. I'm good hanging out with OU. I mean, if he probably sees Eli Bowen playing and says, well, I can do that. And maybe he could do that next year as the other cornerback because he's got that level of talent. And the secondary coach, I mean, Valai's not going anywhere. Hall's not going anywhere. Alley's not going anywhere. The only disappointment I have, Chris, right now with recruiting is that we haven't made some more new offers to get some more kids on campus.
I know that a while back you were a little bit upset with, I think, not only, the tight ends. I think the O-line we're getting to the numbers that you were talking about, but I think linebacker was a position that you were a little bit worried about with us not being able to recruit. Still,
I mean, so there's two stories there at linebacker. They think they're going to get Caleb Burns on campus for the Bama game. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But they needed to make some more offers. They think they're going to flip Luke Metz, which I'm not sure they're going to do at all, the linebacker from Georgia who's verbal to Alabama. Maybe they'll get him on campus. Maybe they won't. The big concern with me at linebacker, Chris, is if you've seen Marcus James lately on film or at the summer camp footage that was put out, the kid is huge. He's going to outgrow. By the time he's in a weight room, he's going to be like 6'4.5", 245 pounds. And both Chavis and Bates are going to be like, yeah, he's a defensive end. We're taking him. So that's the problem you have there is that I think he's going to outgrow the position. He could be, the kid's he's got a huge wingspan. He's freaking huge. Mm-hmm. So I think Marcus James' natural position might end up being defensive end, rush end. So that means you got no linebackers in the class. And it's not a problem next year. The problem is you need to start having linebackers this year and in the next class to replace. If you had redshirted Carter or Omasigo, it would be even less of an issue. But you didn't. So they're in the same class as McKenzie and Kip and McCullough. McCullough, is a junior this year, right? So they're sort of the same group as them. But 2026 linebacker-wise, you did have Talanoa Ely from California on campus, and he's a 5-star 2026 linebacker, just headhunter from his sophomore film. So he was on campus, had a great visit, he talked to a number of sites about his visit, raved about it, said it reset where he thought he needed to be. That he said the head coach is a linebacker. I just see how important linebackers are. So that's a positive sign for 2026. But yeah, I would just love one meaningful linebacker to fall into OU's lap between now and signing day.
That may be the snowball effect. That may be the domino that you need with Zach Alley. I think once he gets that first one, maybe that could be it. Because I do think that guy. I want to hear it on the recruiting trail as well. But I mean, I think he's been infectious this year. I think he's helped a lot.
They love him, man.
Yeah, I think
I
he's
mean,
helped a lot.
the problem might just be that OU stacked at backer, right? And kids are just saying, well, they're seeing, okay, you guys will roll around for 2 more years. When am I going to play?
How much has Kanek been on the field this year, though? I mean, I've seen him a handful of times, but I don't know if he's played in that many games or what. Is there a chance that he could possibly be a red shirt, or is there?
No, he's played way too many games.
Okay.
And he was.
My other question was transfer portal. Jonte Cook out of Texas, that receiver. Is there?
So do we have the audio track to play to play Rock and Roll Hall of Famers Foreigner right now and the song Head Games? Yeah, I mean the guy's a head case. I mean, why are we trading Javonte Cook for Petaway? Because they're both going to be in the portal probably. Mm-hmm. That wide receiver group, Mekhi Hudson might be in the portal too. That whole wide receiver group is not exactly, unless you're elite, unless you're at Ohio State, where all elite wide receivers become first round draft picks. Considering the wide receiver talent in the portal, why would you take Javonte Cook, who's rolled out of Texas? Although apparently Georgia and Oregon.
He's a 5-star.
Well, but what does that mean after 2 seasons of not doing anything at Texas? I mean, is he still a 5-star? At wide receiver, I don't trust.
Sounds like he got in Sark's doghouse. It sounds like he got in Sark's doghouse, but that doesn't necessarily mean.
Which means he's not going to get in Brent's doghouse.
It's possible.
I only want to take third-year portal wide receivers if they've been posting 1,000-yard seasons somewhere.
Well,
because that's what you want. You want.
The reason I ask is because of EJ having the connections that he has to Coach Samples.
Yeah.
No, he didn't play there. He didn't play there though for Coach Samples, did he? He was at DeSoto, wasn't he?
Yeah. I mean,
plus DeSoto.
Plus, during recruiting, he was a head case.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Jason, Jason, I know Unc out here still listening. He probably saying, "Nah, Jason, listen to what Chris Mason got to say."
Unc doesn't want the guy with a high upside because he's a pain in the ass. Are you kidding?
Hey, I talked to the man. The man said he wants production. he said, in every level, offensive line. If we go to the portal, he wants production. Put up some numbers.
You're not gonna have those guys going to the portal though. That's the point. You've got to go off of.
Right there. I want talent. What does talent mean?
Wide receivers are a dime a dozen, guys. I mean, it is. Thank you very much, Craig. Look, if Jeremiah Smith hits the portal, roll out the Brinks truck, okay? Yeah. All right. Ryan Williams
truck out for Javonte. I was just wondering if you're hearing anything, if that was a possibility, because he is from the Dallas area, so we know that EJ has connections there.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, again, he hasn't put out anything to me on tape in a game where I've just said, wow, that guy's awesome. Wouldn't I like him to be a Sooner?
Which makes you even
against us.
Well, no. Here's the point right here, and I think Chris Mason was about to get to this. I'm about to steal this out of your brain. He hasn't been able to do anything in that Texas offense, and let's not act like that Texas offense is very difficult to really understand. Now,
it's wide receiver friendly.
It's very wide receiver friendly.
You got a veteran quarterback throwing you the ball. I mean, for all of Ewer's shortcomings to be, he's a productive wide receiver. He's a productive quarterback. He's a veteran quarterback. No, recruiting. Guys, EJ. Elijah Thomas just dominated again, right? Cortez Mills looks great, and he has no quarterback and no offense getting him the ball. And Marcus Harris is coming from Major Day where he can't get the ball because they have 4 4-star wide receivers. Yeah. So the quarterback is just he's just playing pitch and catch to a Division I wide receiver core. So even Manuel Choice is having a really good year at wide receiver. So you've got guys coming in. I don't see why I don't see, depending upon, let's see from the wide receiver mass unit who is still a Sooner, come January 1st. All right, let's see where they are. Let's see how the wide receiver core ends the year. If we get to a bowl game, they have a chance to, we have a chance to see what they're doing. Let's see where that is. But I wouldn't, they've been apparently kicking, maybe talking.
Started here, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. It's is he? I mean, of course, Cook's people are saying that Oregon and Georgia have reached out to him. Why would you not say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what are you going to say, that Fairleigh Dickinson and Bethune-Cookte have contacted you? I mean, he's obviously going to say, but I mean, and if you're his guy, you're going to go to Georgia, the place where wide receivers go to die. I mean, if you're not Ladd McConkey, I mean,
Anthony Edwards hadn't done shiz.
I kind of feel like where
quarterbacks go to die too. I mean, Carson Beck regressing to be.
That knucklehead should have left in the damn draft last year and got in the first round.
Yeah, his stock
you was 6th round pick.
No Rashada.
Ewers should too. Ewers cost himself money not going out too.
Yeah, yes. Ollie Gordon. If we're just talking about people who cost themselves a little bit.
Ooh, buddy.
I
don't know, Chris. Do we pay our bills? Can we talk about Oklahoma State?
No, I don't want to talk about poor failures. But anyways, no, like I was
telling you, check out my column. It'll be out here after the show is over with. I talk plenty about Mike Gundy in that column.
like I was telling Nick and Steven today. I was like, surely this is a conversation with the family that Sark can have to just say, hey, look, all I'm saying is just wait your time. There's a lot of guys that are leaving.
He was dismissed. He didn't leave.
Oh,
who Cooked it? He got dismissed.
That's what the Texas sites are saying. He was dismissed.
Yeah, of course, that's what the Texas sites.
Well, yeah, I mean, he wasn't playing. I mean, so there's a smoking gun about his departure. I completely buy the fact he was dismissed because let's remember during recruiting. This guy was such a head case. OU was like, yeah, we're not. And we badly needed wide receivers. We were like, yeah, thanks. He's like, hey, can I visit Norman? Thanks, but no thanks, dude. Don't call us. We'll call you. And he was super talented. Don't you remember him making the comment about the Texas swim team national championships?
Yeah.
Where were the football trophies? I mean, he is a.
Hey, SMU, TCU, here we come.
Yeah, I mean, he'll end up. I mean, one of those schools. I mean, what they have absolutely zero risk really taking him, right? But I think you'll see him in the portal, and I think you'll see him end up falling to a level that he doesn't exactly expect because there'll be too many other talented. There'll be too many other talented guys in the portal. I mean, the wide receiver talent pool in college football just always goes up. It's just silly.
Chris Mason, do you have anything to add to that? And I'm gonna transition to our last topic, and let Jason go a little bit crazy.
No, I mean other recruiting, nothing else recruiting wise really going on. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. OU will have more visitors for the Alabama game. Some unofficial kids, 2026, probably roll out the carpet for a bunch of players there. I'd like to think they get 3 or 4 2024 visitors in, 2025 visitors in to try and sign a couple more kids before this. I think last note on recruiting, once OU gets the OC position kind of resolved, I can see OU doing some more January recruiting than they have in the past couple of seasons. Bringing some kids in January, signing a couple of kids in February.
Which is a great segue into the last segment. Jason, what you got for me? What you've heard, man? OC search, right? OC is really the hottest thing that's going around OU. If you know, right?
If you know. It's definitely the most important thing.
Yeah. So, kind of what are some names that I wouldn't necessarily say you're hearing or whatever. We don't really want to comment on all that stuff, but what are some names that you are excited about, like actual names as we progress in this search?
I still think that Koltanecki is a possibility, but I think he maybe, as far as the fan base is concerned, I think they cooled on him after they lost to Ohio State last week.
How could you cool on him when that's the normal result of that game?
It's just no matter who. I mean, I'm just telling you that's what you have fans coming into the comment section saying.
I just don't know how.
Here's the thing. On that. They don't have a receiving core at Penn State. It doesn't have to do with the offensive coordinator and what he's doing. They haven't had a receiver that can catch a cold and do anything that they don't have any dynamic guys that are making guys miss. They're not getting open. I don't care what kind of quarterback you got. If you don't have a receiver, what are you going to do? They haven't had that in years. So I still like Andy Koltanecki. I'm on the Will Stein bus. I know Sooner Cowboys keeps on talking about go hire Samples as your OC. No, I don't want to do that. I want you to go get Will Stein, and he can bring Samples with him, and he can coach the running backs. When they get rid of DeMarco. But that being said, I'm and that's just a joke. I don't expect that to happen either. I'm kind of with what Chris said there. I mean, if you're not really hearing a whole lot about tight ends at all, but but you continue to hear that these guys are going to stay as far as your recruits for the linemen and stuff. Norman, stop. This dog is like, it's like, I'm going to play lineman. Shit. But I'm a Will Stein guy. I want to see him be the guy for it. I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I think you're starting to hear more of those names like Tulane's offensive coordinator. I'm still in the. To me, I think you make GJ Kinney tell you no, and let him bring in his guy. You end up getting both of them. Then if you go get Mac as well. I think you make GJ Kinney tell you no.
That's a very Lincoln Riley-ish hire right there, because it's a high risk, high reward type deal. Yeah,
Kenny's already been a head coach, and he's proven everywhere he's been. So you're taking a head coach that comes in and has they developed Cam Ward. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm the guy that's getting the most out of Cam Ward because of the.
I've been telling those Okie Light fans all day, every day, like, hey, look, that should be your next head coach, because what he would add on that recruiting trail, he would try to blaze every path that he could, because he would try to set everything on fire, trying to get kids and all the rest of that stuff. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of like a dark horse, like a sleeper hire that I would like. Chris Mason, let's go to you real quick. Sooners in Texas. He's asking Chris Mason, do you still think that the only way OU gets a quality OC is if OU gives that OC free run to fire Beatonbow, Emmett Jones, or DeMarco Murray?
Well, I think if the OC that Brent really wants says, I want a clean house, then that'll be a tipping point in the interview process. But I do think, the question I think Brent's going to ask is, if you've got a better name of someone you want at wide receiver coach, O-line coach, or running back coach, and you can bring him in, then let's talk. Tell me who your guy is. But if you're just saying, I want a clean house to clean house, be like, it just depends, right?
That feels like that wouldn't be the guy that is number one on his list if he's just willy-nilly saying, I want to fire Bill Beatonbow with this class that he's got coming in, plus the one that he's lining up for 26, not to mention the 24K class.
Right. So I think, the 24K O-line looked pretty good in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was Maine, but they were three freshmen were out there blocking, and they were doing a pretty good job. So I think if the O-line offensive coordinator has an O-line guy that he has to have, then yeah, and it's an offensive, let's just say, but it's got to be somebody like Koltanecki or Will Stein, a home run hire who has a elite offensive line coach in his back pocket to come with him, and that's where we are. I don't think guys like Craddock or GJ Kinney I mean, Spavital's getting thrown around a little bit lately.
Oh my gosh!
Just because Baylor's offense is all of a sudden saving Aranda's job. They're playing better with the Forrest Sawyer kid. I think it's Forrest Sawyer. Is that right? It's another auto-generated Texas quarterback name, Forrest Sawyer. It's like, where are these guys coming from? Anyway, Forrest, run, Forrest, run, Forrest. But anyway, so I think if it's your lead guy and he's got a guy, then yeah. If you need to upset the apple cart and that's the decision you're going to do, then do it and live with the consequences. Same with DeMarco. But you better have a guy who's, it's odd, because some comments have been going around about DeMarco's recruiting. And I'm like, well, you got Tatum, you've got Torrey Blaylock and Hatton, and Garrison Hurt's cousin was on campus for the third time for the main game, and he's a top 50 running back in the country for 2027. And you got Mekhi Rhodes and these guys who were camped who all look good. It's like, DeMarco has a recruiting problem. I don't see the recruiting part of the problem.
The development that may not be very good in his.
Well, to me, the problem I'm having.
Substitution patterns suck.
Well, okay, all right. If you substitute, they look fine substituting in Xavier Robinson on Saturday, right? Hey, I'm going to sub in Xavier Robinson and let him beat up linebackers and run over a safety. I'm just saying that DeMarco's not having a recruiting problem. And Chris, the problem I'm really having is, do I just flush everything from the game one through the South Carolina game and judging the offensive coaches? Am I flushing everything?
I think you're flushing at the very least 30% of it. I think you're saying, hey, there's still some things that could have went well enough for us to at least be really competitive down the stretch. But maybe that's even asking a lot. I don't think you throw it all the way and just say, hey, you flush it and say it's a mulligan. No, I mean there's some things.
We're kind of giving Brent a mulligan on OC hiring, right?
You kind of have to, don't you?
Yeah,
hey, he's walking around with an A on his chest. He's walking around with an A on his chest right now. It's shame. It's shame right now because at the end of the day, and I'm not saying Joe John has changed the world or done anything that's amazing, but
no, I think he's just called a basic. They just basically
went back to the offense that they already knew is what he did.
Basic install, and it would work.
I mean, we heard rumors that that Bill didn't know what the blocking scheme was game to game under Luttrell.
That's right.
And now,
his brother-in-law.
Okay, now the offensive line, even subbing in injuries, the guys seem to know what they're doing. Now, whether they do what they're supposed to do, what they need to do is another issue, right? But they at least seem to have identified someone to block, as Gabe Eichert said, that they're covering people up, right? They may not be blocking everyone. They're not blocking everyone 5 yards, but they're covering everyone up. So at least the running back has a chance to make a play if they can make someone miss.
How about this? I'm gonna throw a name out there at you guys from left field. Dan Mullen.
Does he really want to get back into it?
My only issue with even saying
players
Dan
to
Mullen,
get molested by his wife, or what are we talking about here?
Jason, where are you going with this? Come on, man. Anyways,
you heard these stories?
Jason, shut up. Anyways,
it's true.
So with Dan Mullen, here's the thing. Here's the thing with Dan Mullen. My only issue, like the biggest issue with even if we went down that route,
like shit, right?
Hold on, Jason. Hold on. Let me get this point out. My only problem with him is he actually passionate about recruiting, right? Because that's the thing. You hire him as the OC, but do you have a system built already there at OU like Saban had at Bama, to where, I don't necessarily believe that Bob was going out there recruiting kids. I don't. I think Sark may have had more fire under his seat to be able to go and do something like that, but I don't think Bob was going out there recruiting kids like that. I think he may have got a call, and then you were getting visits from everybody else, and if they truly wanted you, they probably sent Nick there at the very last, to have that in-home visit that everybody loves to have with Nick Saban, right? So I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing a name out there. Like, I mean, Mullen.
I don't love it.
Well, does Mullen really have to recruit quarterbacks? How long is Mullen really your coach for, your OC for, right? So Mullen's
because if he's doing that, he's coming back so that he can get a head coach.
Okay, right. So if he comes in for 2 years, I mean, he's basically coaching. He's coaching either Jackson Arnold or Hawkins for the next 2 years, right? And he's a big enough name that you probably can keep Jaden O'Neal in the loop, probably land one of the two 2027 quarterbacks that you want. I mean, you can just have them, it's, he recruited, he's developed Prescott, Richardson, so that'll be enough for the kids to say, okay, all right, he can develop quarterbacks, so that's enough for me. Yeah, I guess he developed Tebow I guess he did. Yeah, that's right.
Good Lord.
As much as anybody ever developed that guy who can't really throw the football. Fullback playing quarterback. So yeah, I mean, I don't think the recruiting side of that doesn't really worry me that much, because he'll be gone, and if he restabilizes our offensive output, the quarterbacks
we'll go back to the next concept for sure. If you're going to get him,
quarterbacks will just show up, and it'll be the quarterbacks we have verbal will play for him, and they'll be fine. That we're recruiting will verbal, and that'll be fine. But but is he been gone so long that he's out of touch, and it isn't quite the same football game that it was when he was calling plays? I mean,
was he in touch whenever we last saw him?
Well, I mean, he Florida got to an SEC championship game with that guy that we beat up in that bowl game, right? I mean, that guy was not talented, really. And they coached him up to get into a bowl. They won the SEC East that year. They beat Georgia, didn't they?
That was it. Yeah, that was the year they beat Georgia.
They beat Georgia. So, or they were close to an SEC championship game. I don't quite remember, but I remember is him throwing picks to Norwood in the bowl game and Rattler, and us.
Oh yeah, Kyle Trask.
Kyle Trask.
Yes. I mean Trask. Yeah,
Trask. The Kyle Trask season, the COVID season. So, so I mean, I think it might work. Are there other NFL guys who might be interested? Maybe. There's risks there too about recruiting and all that. So where Brent goes, all I know is that Brent's got the money to go hire a big time guy. That's not an issue, right?
Go get Stein, man. Go get him. Go get one of these guys.
But the problem is I think you waste cycles trying to get Stein only for Oregon to match his money and for him to drag that negotiation out until Oregon's done in the playoffs.
The thing about that, though, is that him being a Texas guy, he's got the connections that he does there. I mean, yeah, I can see wanting to stay at Oregon, but I can also see him wanting to be right here and back in the SEC as well instead of the Big Ten.
Well, yeah, but the problem with Stein is going to end up being schedule-wise, right? Can you get him to commit early enough? Would Oregon let him commit early enough that because you can't wander into mid-January thinking you're getting Stein, and then Oregon goes over the top with a $4 million offer, which you then can't match, and then you have lost him. You've lost the guy. This is how Donnie Duncan stumbled into a hotel bar and hired Howard Schnellenberger, right? He had a deal with Barry Alvarez to replace Gary Gibbs, and Alvarez at the 11th hour pulled out on him, and then Mac Brown said, "Well, I can't interview it because you should hire Watson Brown," and this is how you end up. You cannot wait until mid-January for Will Stein. You just can't, or you cannot do that in the state that they're currently in. And I don't think you could get a commitment for him early in December without Oregon saying, no, just wait until the playoffs are over, then we'll renegotiate your contract. And you're not going to know the number you're competing against. And meanwhile, you'll lose everybody else. Probably.
I don't know. We've seen coordinators leave or be playing. And in fact, Dan Dan Lanning still was coaching for Georgia whenever he already had the job for Oregon. They
that's completely right. But do you do that as a coordinator making a coordinator jump?
Everybody leaves Oregon, man. Everybody leaves Oregon. Let's just put it that way.
Well, plus Kirby Smart is, it wasn't his offensive coordinator was losing; it was his defensive guy. I mean, Kirby can coach the defense for the playoffs. So Lanning was able to leave and do a lot. I mean, we're talking about a coordinator, a lateral move, not a promotion. So would Stein be willing to say?
Hold up. A lateral move?
Yes.
Bullshit. That's not what that is. It's better to be the OC. Now I get what you're saying. If he's really on the hot seat, which I don't know that that's really the case, but if Brent's on the hot seat, then sure. It's not a lateral move though. Everybody leaves Oregon.
We'll have to on the current state of affairs, the number 1 team in the nation with the number 3 recruiting class in the nation, with momentum flying all over the place. If Dante Moore is the guy next year for Oregon, they're relatively going nowhere versus jumping into an Oklahoma job where OU's going 6-6. If they can beat Missouri, they might go 6-6 if they can beat Missouri versus leaving the number 1 team in the nation, the number 1 seed in the nation right now, and you're doing the same job. That's a lot. I mean,
if you come in and do it, okay. But what if you come in here and you do a good job though, and then they do decide that they still want to get rid of Brent Venables? If you really think that he's in trouble,
how do you possibly? Everyone says stuff like this, but how in the world does he do a great job?
No, I know because BB's going to
rebuild the offense to go with the defense, the young defense we've been seeing all season long for the next 2 years. Next 2 years, OU's defense.
You got to make the guy tell you no is the one thing I'm trying to get at. You got to make the dude tell you no. You got to roll the dice there, put the big money out there. If he wants to stay and coach, whatever, but you sign a contract with him.
Again, if you can get him to on paper, if you can get name on paper for a dollar amount and not have his people say, well, I got to give Oregon a chance to match this or some nonsense that. If you can get that name on a contract in the first 2 weeks of December, sure. But you cannot wait until a stall where he says, well, I got to really wait until after we're done for playing football. It'd be like, well, screw that.
Well, I would be done playing football in week 2 of the damn playoff.
Dude, what are you talking about? They're going to be
playing they might be. No, I actually like them a lot. I think they look pretty good.
Have you looked around college football? There's not a power team out there. They have a veteran.
That's true. And I tell you what, their defense is a lot of the reason that they look the way they do. They're rushing the passer too.
So, Chris, obviously, this is not where you wanted us to go with this, but
he did. He's trying to start some shit too.
All right. Let me roll this back. One last question, then I need to duck out. What date do you think the new OU offensive coordinator is named? Not starts or it's in an OU polo on the sideline. What date does he have to be named by?
Probably by about December 15th, right?
Oh, Jay, you just took the date right out of my freaking head. December 15th.
All right. So and if he's removing DeMarco and Bill and some other people, it's got to be earlier than that because you got to deal with the portal ramifications and the recruiting ramifications of losing some guys. So he needs to be ready December 9th or December 5th or whatever.
No, he may need to be ready to November.
I mean, ideally it's December 1st, right? You plug in a guy.
I think you're already. These guys have and whoever said that up there, I think it was Sooner in Texas. Yeah, whoever that's going to be, they've already jumped on that June bug. Yeah, no doubt.
No, I mean they're interviewing, getting contracts right. I mean, ideally, right after the LSU game is over, you want Brent to say, "You want Brent
pull the trigger on this guy.
Pull the trigger on the guy you want. Get the contract done.
Sure.
And let's get him in. And if that means it's somebody like, if that means all of a sudden you go with Craddock or or Gigi Kenny and his is that Mark Leftwich? Is that his QB coach?
Mac Leftwich, yeah.
Mac Leftwich, sorry. You bring those two guys in and you decisively do something, and the rest of the guys are like, we're all good. Now you're focused. You got your quarterback coach in. You got your new offensive coordinator, and you move forward. And and that guy's maybe doesn't coach the bowl game. Maybe he does coach the bowl game, or you just let Joe John coach the bowl game to add to his resume as a parting gift. This is your year-long. This is some nice furniture from Broyhill and a year of rice-a-roni for you. So.
If he wins, are you still of the opinion that even if he wins out, if OU wins out and they're putting up 35 or whatever, that there's no shot there?
Okay, I think if OU beats Missouri, beats Alabama in some fantastic home game, and then goes to Death Valley and beats LSU, old bets. I have no ability to predict because. I have no ability to predict what's going to happen there. If Kevin Johns has coached up Jackson Arnold to some degree where he's out playing Milroe and Nussmeier, and Bill has coached up two redshirt freshmen and a offensive line with two redshirt freshmen putting up.
Okay.
I mean, it's like once that happens, all bets are off, and I think anybody who says, I'm firing Joe John immediately, the emotions after winning those 3 games in a row,
that's funny shit too, yeah. Yeah, all these people, they're like, it don't matter what they do.
All
the Twitter know-it-alls.
Joe John, F Lee, F Joe John Jeff,
Yeah. They've been saying
JJF. You tell me that he wins those 3 games and you're 8-4 and you have blown up SEC football by doing that, and you're telling me that you're just going to let him go?
There you go.
I
think the reason I was asking, you were talking about his issue with recruiting at the moment. It's been an issue.
Still there. It's
correct.
But at that point, guys, the emotions and the sweep, the emotions and the momentum on the team, if they somehow swept these last 3 games, would be hard. It would if Joe John. I mean, it would be. I mean, he'll be hired. I mean, you could let him go and he'd be hired by somebody else. I mean, he would obviously have a resume that some other.
Well, that's what I mean. Yes, we're saying he's got to be a proven commodity. Well, I think that would prove it.
Well, again, all the arguments all of a sudden you go from get rid of that bum to man. I like the way that guy calls plays, man. It just, because
all of a sudden Jackson Arnold looks like the guy that, everybody thought he was going to be.
Exactly. Well, we got to keep Kevin Johns. No one even knew who Kevin Johns was 6 weeks ago. That's an average.
Kevin Johns is a 2-time Broyles Award finalist. I mean,
yeah, no, I'm just saying that if you some, U.S. hockey 1980 miracle on football, happens for the Sooners in the last 3 weeks. Yeah, all bets are off. I mean, anybody who says that, that they honestly can tell me that if they go to Baton Rouge and they beat Alabama and they beat Missouri, that you are just completely steadfast. And the offense looks great doing it, right?
The question was asked the other day on Twitter. The reason I'm asking is I said it on Twitter. I was like, I think that at the moment when he hasn't happened, that people are going to sit here and say this. But the second that actually, I mean, look, man, we're talking about pipe dreams. I mean, crack pipe dreams at that.
I mean, we're talking like unicorn. You were talking about unicorns leading the Sooner schooner out in the field after every touchdown. I mean, screw the ponies, shit and skittles, with rainbows coming out of their butts. I mean,
guys,
diverged into some shit, haven't we?
We got to go do it. I mean, it's one of those things you got to do. But I'll be honest with you, and I'm gonna make this the last thing that's said. He could win all 3 games. I don't think it happens, people. I think it's too many voices in the room. And I think that this needs to be a home run hire, meaning that you need to go get the right guy whoever that is, but there needs to be a fresh breath of life because
you say that now, brother. You say
it's
that
not
now.
about the incoming, and you could do all this stuff and handicap yourself again for Jackson. Jackson's going to have to grow up. He's going to be a junior next year, basically. Redshirt sophomore, whatever he's going to be, junior, whatever. He's going to be a junior next year, and he's going to have to understand for the betterment of the team, there may need to be some new life and some new blood pumped into this because I can guarantee you if JJF stays because of the Latrell and all the rest of that stuff, there will be a bunch. There probably will be some portal guys. Okay, some guys. I mean, we know it's going to happen regardless, and we could probably name a couple of players right now. But
Jackson Arnold.
I just think more of the same. I don't think that's what you're looking for. I think you're looking for somebody that can come in and at the very least, at the very worst, Jason, somebody can come in and do the same thing that Joe Judd is doing, just call basic offense. Whatever the hell Latrell was doing, I don't know. But people, we've been on here for 1 hour and 25 minutes.
Well, you start talking about miracles on ice and miracles in football, and I mean, you're going down a dark, weird path. Jonte Cook. I mean,
that's Jason for you, and whatever you said, I'm about to edit that out of the damn show about what you call it. Don't sue us, sue Jason. But anyways, what's his name? Mullen.
Dan Mullen.
Yeah,
That's not, man. That's no shit up, brother. Go into the dark, scary ass.
Don't talk to hey. At the end of the day, during the day, I'm an attorney. Remember that. Okay. Anyways, people, the Horns Down podcast, Hall of Fame college football podcast. You got Sooners 360 here. Patreon, all the rest of that stuff. The links are there. Obviously, people are over there on Jason's show. Guys, like, subscribe, do all those different things. Keep liking, keep subscribing, keep doing all those things. We bump out this content. Peeps, before we jump off of here, will we be back this Saturday for a post game?
That'll be late.
It'll be late.
Okay.
I ain't scared. I'll be here.
Jason will be here.
All right, people. Are we committed to going after the game, regardless?
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. I'll stay up.
All right.
Oh, I just put that one. I meant to put the